So at this point, we have the meat of all the basics completely out of the way, and we can get into the things that have some interest. And part of that interest is this concept of remotes, where we can specify for one local repository anywhere on a disk, hey, I want you to treat another file location or any number of online repositories as your remote. You can add any number of remotes to a repository. And what this kind of opens up is the ability to have one directory where you're actually working on everything, and you can reach out to a number of other team members, forks where they're already working, and pull in their changes, already indexed inside of our ledger by their commit hash, use and incorporate their changes, and still be able to push a final product up into the main mixtures repository. The other end of this, on the other side of that coin, is what if I have a whole bunch of code and I need to get it into GitHub and I want to do it painlessly, more or less. And what if I want to do it from the command line in case I need to do some really interesting things later, where maybe I have two different repositories, they have the same name but totally different code inside of it. And we'll jump into adding a remote at this point. So what I have is I have this little example where we've created a directory that has some files in it, and nothing is tracked by Git yet. And we can kind of look at what's here. So we have a changes directory, and inside of changes, we have a file 1 and a file 2, and outside of all of that, we also have a file 3. And if we wanted to, we can kind of view what's actually in each of these. One of them has example text more, one of them has example text 1, and another one has an additional line that's example text in a different folder. Now what we can do is we can just initialize a new repository here. It's an empty Git repository. It has no upstream remotes yet, right? And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to add a new remote. And as always, something helpful is to read through the help page. You don't have to do this, but it's useful. And what we're going to look for is git remote add. We can specify only one branch with -t if we want. We can do some funky magic to specify what the main branch actually is in between this new remote we've added and our local copy we have. We can automatically fetch all information from that upstream or that remote repository as soon as we add it, which is going to come in very handy. And we can leave off tags. Basically, you drop the commit history, and you can do some extra funny business with how you want to handle where things get copied based on whether you're reading or you're writing to that remote. Of course, you give it a name, and you have to give it a file location where a Git repository is, or you can give it a HTTPS or SSH address like we've been using so far.
That's love.
So let's go ahead and add this repository. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. It's the same URL we've been using the whole time. Doesn't matter if it's HTTPS or SSH. And we're going to do git remote -v. I want it verbose. I want it to tell me if anything goes wrong, because things can go wrong here. And I want to add the remote. I want it to fetch every piece of information that's in that remote and give me that information inside of my local copy here. And we'll name it upstream Sam at this address. Gotta type in that key. And as you can see, it says, hey, by the way, here's all those branches that we now have access to through that remote. In particular, we have our Git2 and our Git2.3 that we've been working with so far. And here is a very, very crucial point. If we do git status, we're on branch master, but that's the master for our local copy. It's not the same as the master for the remote repository. There's a flag that we just looked at that you can use to play funny business with that, but we're going to avoid that wholesale for now. And what I want to do is I have all these untracked new files. If I do git checkout of a currently existing branch, it's going to wipe away everything that I already have. We don't want that. But we can take advantage of the fact that that remote that we've created is totally separate from our local copy as it happens. So what we can do is we can git branch git branch -c for create, and we'll call it new files. It's git branch new files to create. And what we'll want to do is create a new branch for these changes to go into, which is very, very important and needs to be done. Otherwise, and commit these files into that new branch only for our local copy. Because otherwise, when we add an upstream and go to check out one of those branches later, they'll get wiped away. And we kind of want to have a stationary copy of everything that we've done so far for this code that already exists. So we can go back to that if we want to. So what we'll do is we'll git checkout -b, and that lowercase b is incredibly important to check out and to create a new branch. So we'll get checkout -b, and we'll name it new files. When we get status again, we see that we need to actually add these. And as far as I'm concerned, I just want to add in everything. Of course, you may want to only add in very specific files one by one. Changes /file2, but keep in mind everything you don't add to this branch that we've created will be wiped away when we later go back to merge things together, or to take what we have right now and actually send it to a remote repository. So we'll get add star, and we'll make the commit message add new files for merge. And as you can see, we have everything's hunky-dory. And at this point, we want to add a new remote. Let's first check out the help. So something you'll note, it's this one we want. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can do. It's kind of important. You might feel the need to look at this at some point in the future if you're handling anything more tricky. You can specify a specific branch on a remote, and you only want that one branch. You can also play some funny business trying to figure out which branch is which. Do you want to consider your master branch that you already have in this local copy to be the same as the main branch in your remote? Who knows? That option is how you set it. -F is going to reach out to our new remote And as soon as we add it, go ahead and pull in all of that information to make sure that it's all locally workable. And we have to specify this. It's normally a good practice to do that, unless you have some weirdness going on in between similar branches that already exist. And some other options that we won't talk about right now. Finally, we have a name for it, and we got to provide a URL location. And that URL can be the HTTPS and SSH links that we've been using so far from GitHub. It can also be a file location somewhere else on the disk, and that'll become important later. Of course, here is the explanation of each of these. So I want git remote -v because I want that output to be verbose, and we're going to add a new remote. I want it to fetch everything from there, and I need to provide it a name. We'll call it upstream SAM. And the particular location we're going to use is my fork of the main mixtures repository here. We'll copy that and paste that. And of course, and here we can already see it's pulled in all of the other branches that are there, and we can begin working with those branches at will, which is great. You can also see, the Git2 branch and the Git2.3 branch that we've been working with this entire time. Now, what we can do is, let's double check and make sure, okay, we're on the branch new files, everything's there. Let's list all the branches that we have access to. And then I'm going to pause really quick to make sure I haven't done something stupid. Okay, I think we're back. So what we need to do now is let's go ahead and relist all of those branches that were out there. And we want our own local copy of Git2. So what we're going to do is we're going to git checkout -b, creating a new branch that we're going to call Git2 for our own local copy. And it's going to come from upstream SAM, that remote, the remote's version of Git2. And now we have, of course, the same Git2 that's on the same level as this. And keep in mind, we could have named this anything, whatever helps you keep track of it. So now let's look at our branches again. We have Git2 and we have new files. And we want new files to go into Git2, right? Let's remember, well, as Git branch has told us, we're already in Git2, and we want to be in the branch that we want to take another branch and pull it into. So for example, if we were on the new files branch and we did git merge Git2 to pull the two branches together, we would instead take everything from Git2 and put it into new files. But in our particular case here, we actually want to take all of our new files and put it into Git2, that branch. So we have a simple command here that's git merge. Highly recommend reading some of the documentation here. It's not awful. But it will be more illuminating for more convoluted examples of real world problems that we can run into later. But we want to git merge everything from new files, and it'll tell us, hey, you don't have the same Git histories here, none of the commits are the same, that's not okay. And of course, we want to have this option added called allow unrelated histories. And what this does is we'll pretty much take everything by its timestamp and we'll reflow the ledger to make sure that everything lines up inside of the Git2 branch. And if we go back and we do git log, we'll see that our Git2 now just incorporates everything from that new branch. There's some question about whether or not the things will reflow, or if you want to take everything from the branch that we're merging in and just treat it as a new commit. But for our purposes, this has worked out more or less okay, as we might expect if all of the files are unique. Once again, dancing around the concept of a merge conflict, because that can conflict what we just did. And what we're going to do now is we're going to git push to upstream SAM, and thankfully we've taken all of the new files, put them in their own separate branch, and we've put it into a local copy of a remotes branch that's already being tracked, and those two are linked. So we can do this. And of course, if we pop back over here and potentially refresh the page just to make sure we have everything exact, we can now see that we've actually added these files inside of the Git2 branch. And the screen is not important for us right now.